Hello, welcome back to GameSpot's continuing coverage of E3 2015. One of my favorite things to do at E3 is play FIFA early. And once again, Nick Cannon is over in the US to show it off. Very good. Looking forward to a new year of FIFA. It's been interesting moving over here and seeing the growth of football, or I guess I have to say soccer when I'm here in North America. And it's great that you guys are sort of growing into new areas as well. We'll talk about the addition of ladies football in a second. But first of all, let's look at the game. We've got Real Madrid versus Barcelona here. And let me know, what new gameplay additions are you making here?
Lots of things. I mean, we really, we've taken a step back as a development team this year and really looked at our game and look at all the systems. We have great technology, but let's look at all those systems and what do we need to do to improve, innovate, refine everything. And listening to the feedback from the players that play our game, they give us great feedback. And there was a couple of key things that stood out. One was really want more confidence in defending. They want to be able to defend. It was difficult at times. I think the game was a little bit imbalanced last year with the speedy wingers, the skilled players. So we want to create a really balanced game because ultimately it's make a fun experience. Also getting the midfield back. They wanted to be able to build up through the midfield. So really shaping our feature set around that. So we've got a few examples here right now. What I'm going to show you right now is this is just one example of a lot of work we've done around player movement. So as I move this forward, if you actually look at Neymar, number 11 there, you'll see he's doing what we call a swing step. So this is a really agile turn, a quick way to keep with Bale. You know, previously you'd overshoot, you'd overrun him. It was difficult to keep up. So this is just one example of responsive player movement that we've worked on to really help you keep with those players. Again, helping that balance. Because we don't want to take away the dribbling. Everyone really enjoyed that last year.
Yeah, it was nice.
This is an example of defending again. This is actually this is AI and your teammates working with you. So if we look at the right back there at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice there's a change of possession. He instantly comes back to get back defensively, get back in position. Last year it took a little bit too long. It was a good chance that the winger there was in on goal, and you know, you had to bring the centre back over.
Obviously this is Real Madrid, so presumably if you're playing with Scunthorpe, they mightn't be as quick on the...
Obviously, the attributes, the ratings are balanced across all the different teams, but fundamentally, the teams will still have that intelligence to, know, to cover. And this is another one here. So again, a change of possession here, and the game previously very much focused on man-to-man marking. It didn't really come away from the player marking to cover. So we look at the top of the screen. Rakitic, you'll notice, is covering a player there, and Benzema gets the ball, so he notices that Bale's making a great run, so he comes over to cover. It's just something we didn't have a lot of previously, and it felt like you'd be quite exposed at the back.
Yeah, and also going forward, sometimes you felt like there was sometimes there's nothing more frustrating than when you see a run yourself and they don't actually make it themselves.
Yeah, there was quite a few times where players would be in on goal, centre backs wouldn't cover for each other. You know, the full backs wouldn't come over to cover either, which was a little bit frustrating. So this is another example of just a new mechanic. We've redone all of our slide tackle animations, and we've actually added some new functionality where Marcelo comes in here. He's going to commit to a slide tackle. Previously, slide tackles were great; they work, but if you miss, you're kind of out of the play. So we've reworked that. Messi recognizes he's coming in, slides, manages to dink the ball over him. If you press the slide tackle button again, he'll pop up. We branch out of that animation. So you're, again, much more responsive. You can get back into the play.
One of the things that you innovated on a couple of years ago was with the second defender press, and then it sort of, especially in 1v1 play, it ended up being problematic because you just had players like swarming the opposition. With that mechanic, with the slide tackle, is there a worry that you might have people using it too much, like diving in and even like faking a dive tackle to try and make somebody attack in a different way?
Yeah, so it's a really good point. We actually have added fake tackles this year. So you actually have that, again, with those one-on-one situations, you can kind of feint to try and, go for a tackle and then hold back. But I think it's a really good point, and I talked about balance. We want a really balanced game. So we're working, the team back in Vancouver is working really hard to make sure, we added these mechanics, but we're working around them, making sure there's, nothing too overpowering. So this is then sort of more focused now on the midfield. Again, this is a defensive thing, but we've really upped the intelligence around interception. So this is our interception logic. You can see the ball's going into Benzema here. PK's tight, but he takes a bit of a risk, but he actually goes and aggressively tries to intercept the ball and does it. Obviously, if he misses, it's a sort of risk-reward thing. But here's another example now with Rakitic again. He wants to aggressively get the ball, so he comes in and slides to actually get the interception. So this has really transformed the game. When you play the game, this is what's bringing that build-up play back into the midfield. because you can't blindly pass, you can't pop passes around without worrying about, getting the ball intercepted. This really has changed the feeling of the game.
So you think maybe there was very much a feeling that when you had possession in FIFA 15 that you could it was almost up to you to try and score as opposed to the defense being able to stop you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's a little bit more of a considered approach. People having to think, maybe having to vary their tactics, not just using speed as we did probably a little bit too much last year. This is an example here of actually that balance in the counter. So this is what we call passing with purpose. So Cruz here is going to ping a pass. This is right bumper with pass, and you can actually hit a pass more powerfully at higher speed. This allows you to get through gaps. As you can see here, Mascherano will react, but because there's more pace on the pass, he can't get there in time.
Presumably that's a direct pass. It's not like a through pass. You
absolutely,
have to, straight down.
Absolutely.
So you kind of have to pick that one close.
Yeah, it gives you that opportunity to counter the interception. So again, adding to the balance. So this is a new mechanic. This is trying to get a few more moments of magic in here. Did a lot in dribbling last year, and we've added this mechanic, what we call no-touch dribbling, which means when you hold down left bumper, you don't actually touch the ball.
Okay.
So dribbling around with the left stick, you dribble as normal. But if you think about modern football and good players, they use body feints.
Yes.
They don't touch the ball. They like feint to go one way. So we've added that. So here's an example here. Normal dribbling from Messi. Then he fakes the pass. Hold down left bumper here. And as you'll see, he fakes to go one way, then the other, and then explodes out when you release it.
That's interesting. One of my favorite parts of doing ice, I love holding down shoot and then hitting pass to feint it. And one of the things you guys managed to do with the AI was actually have them react to that realistically.
Yeah.
So presumably it takes a lot of work to do that
it's
here as well.
It's actually easy, and it's one of the nice things. It gives you a bit more variety in attack, and you don't have to do skill moves. So we've obviously still have skill moves in the game. We're adding some new ones, but it's just a new way to do it. It's probably a little bit easier to do than actually combinations around skill moves. So it's just another mechanic to break down a defender. Here's another example of it while sprinting here. You'll see here Ronaldo just does a little body feint there, not touching the ball, and then explodes out and rides a challenge. So really nice mechanic.
A lot of this stuff I always felt was like it was great, and you show it off at Real and Barcelona, and when you actually try and play as your favorite team, especially with the skill moves, like you can't really do a lot of them. We were talking before we went live about how whenever you play online as well, people tend to pick the biggest teams. How can you combat doing that while still making that gap realistic?
This is really what we're trying to do here. Is if you make a more balanced game, a game where you have to vary the attack. The key here is by having to build up through the midfield, you can't rely on those wingers. Why did people play with Real Madrid? Well, they had Bale on one side and Ronaldo on the other. If you're now, obviously, we still want you to be able to attack. We still want you to be able to dribble with the ball. But if you're having to think about and more considered play, you're more likely to use different teams.
Right.
So by making these changes in the game, we're encouraging people to think that way. And last year there was a tactic of pace that was very over-pervasive, and that's why people defaulted to that team. Even maybe also over Barcelona, So
and it works well. I play as Arsenal all the time, and I liked it a lot when I played online at least.
So here's another example of touching every area and innovating across the entire pitch. This is crossing. So we're now getting the ball in behind the defenders and leading the attacker more. It was much more square crosses before, and we're actually leading Benzema here onto the ball, and he's able to actually come in here and volley. So the final thing, just to show you in the replays, is shooting. Again, shooting obviously was incredibly rewarding. At times last year, there was the ball felt a bit floaty, so we want more driven shots. So we're actually much more realistically looking at how you hit the ball where, but also the sort of 3D nature of the foot. So this is a square driven shot, and you'll notice the trajectory is much more driven and powerful than last year. This is an example here where he actually gets his foot around the ball a little bit more, and you think this is a finesse shot. This is actually a driven shot, and it curls a little bit more. And then finally, if you come across the ball as Benzema does here, it'll spin away.
Excellent.
So a lot more variety. So really bringing that in there. So, we're really trying to innovate across the entire pitch, focusing a lot of time on gameplay, obviously working on goalkeepers, which putting as much effort this year in goalkeepers as well.
Last year, massive push for you guys.
There were some issues and a few frustrations. So really working on ironing out any issues, but also innovating there too.
And innovating in types of the types of football that are available. Women's football coming to FIFA. Massive announcement a couple of months ago. Really sort of groundbreaking in that there are very few sort of modern sports games that do that. Tennis is something that comes to mind. Like even like the Tiger games don't really do it that much.
Yeah.
I was talking to the NFL game guys beforehand. Now they've got women in the crowds.
Right.
They didn't have female spectators.
Right.
So how long have you guys been working on getting this into FIFA?
We've been working on it for about 3 years.
Yeah.
We did a prototype about 3 years ago now, where we actually put a female head on a man's body, and we did that for a reason, to say, okay, where are all the gaps? You know, when we bring women into our game, we want to do it well, we want to do it properly, we want it to be authentic. So it kind of created a sort of laundry list of things we felt we needed to do it properly. And the biggest thing was around the body scaling.
Yeah.
So very linear in the way we scaled our bodies, and for the men, it worked well and it was fine. But to do the women's body type properly, we needed to scale more around shoulders, hips. Yeah. And the knock-on effect of that is it's actually meant that for men, we can actually do more variation in body types. Peter Crouch looks more realistic, which is, you know, it's great.
Yeah.
You know, we also wanted to get hair simulation in there. We could do that for the men, but it wasn't a priority because there weren't that many men with ponytails.
No, it's not the late 90s or late 80s anymore.
Exactly, you know. But when you put women in the game, you've got multiple players with ponytails, and if they don't move, it doesn't look realistic.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of work around hair simulation. To do that kind of in our rendering, we need to do quite a lot of optimization, so there's a lot of work there. We scanned a lot of the players' heads, again, to make the most authentic look. We've done animation changes. We had to rework ratings. Whilst we still have a 90 rated player, the rating system's changed to make it feel better, so that, you know, feel more authentic to the women's game.
Yeah, because the women's game does play differently, and because they're like, I'm a massive Arsenal ladies fan. Prolific team.
Yeah.
Like when they merged the leagues a couple of years ago, Sunderland ran away with it, but the Arsenal ladies have been fantastic, and I watched them on Arsenal TV. But there is a difference in the pace of the game and how it's played. So presumably, I'm guessing there is no male against female.
No, it's a really good point. We've kept it female versus female, male versus male. Again, authenticity, you know, in that case. But it really. A very different experience, and that's one of the great things in the last couple of days as people have been playing it. They really enjoy the difference, and, you know, they really actually like how the women's teams play, and are really enjoying that as a very different experience.
Presumably now you're stuck with it. It's like every time you guys add to FIFA, and it's almost like a sort of a difficulty in being so popular and being so successful, is that, you know, you get a lot of stick for not, you know, doing things by the fans. You know, you need to tweak the game. But every time you add a new mode, you're basically adding a new mode for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
Obviously, was there 12 women's teams in the game?
Yeah.
International, I'm guessing, based on the World Cup.
This year, yeah.
Best of luck to the England ladies
playing
today
right
as
now,
well.
actually.
Oh, is that on right now?
Right now,
Colombia, right?
Yeah, Colombia.
They kind of need to win that game.
Win or draw, and they're through to the next round.
Oh, okay, yeah. So as long as France don't, against Mexico. Anyway, sorry, get back to the video game stuff. Presumably now, since you've dipped your toe in it, you're going to have to keep evolving on women in FIFA 16 and 17, right?
Well, I mean, obviously we added women to our game. They're going to be a big part of our game moving forward. You know, we'll see how it, you know, we'll look at the reaction this year, which has been incredibly positive, which is fantastic. But moving forward, we'll see. I mean, we'll make a decision on that, you know, in the next year. And, you know, if we've got anything else, we'll do that next year. But very, very important part of our game. And certainly as a team, we're very proud to be able to bring them into
Excellent.
FIFA.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I think it's a great news for the sport and for video games as well.
Absolutely.
Sort of on that point, will there be a couple of granular questions? Will there be any women in Ultimate Team this year?
No, not in Ultimate Team this year. We looked at it, but obviously you need quite a big player pool to you know, for Ultimate Team for the mode to work. So they're not in Ultimate Team. You can play in Kickoff. And you can also set up international tournament. Cool. And you can also play with your friends online.
Online as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. And also just talking about in terms of the women in soccer, like what I felt, I say soccer actually, because when I moved over here a year and a half ago, I joined a league, and it was a co-ed league.
Right.
And I actually was kind of blown away by how big women's soccer is in the States specifically, because they seem to have a much better handle on it in terms of like college soccer.
Yeah.
Like it keeps getting bigger and bigger. For you guys, not only in terms of women, but also in terms of the North American market, are you seeing like different people playing FIFA? Because forever, like growing up, I grew up playing like Sensible World of Soccer. You say that to somebody in North America, they don't have a clue. You say FIFA, apart from all the corruption stuff, they know what you're talking about. Do you feel like the soccer video games are becoming international finally?
Definitely. I mean, I think that, you know, it's been really exciting to see the growth in North America. I mean, you talk about the women's game, and, you know, I live in Canada. Obviously, we make the game in Vancouver. And, you know, you look at the growth of grassroots football, both for men and women, but specifically girls football. I mean, both. I have 2 daughters. They both play, you know, girls football. And
they must be
it's
delighted
fantastic.
to know it's coming.
You know, it's the coolest thing for them. They're very excited. But to see just the quality of football being played, the coaching is phenomenal. It really is. And, you know, it's really nice to help, you know, at the end of the day, one of the most authentic game there is. The growth of the women's game in the last 5 or 6 years, the quality of the football at the World Cup's been phenomenal. Incredibly exciting games. But, you know, to see football grow in general, I think, you know, it's really exploded in the last few years. We're seeing, you know, growth of our game. We're seeing, you know, people enjoying football because they're seeing the players that they know now through playing FIFA.
Yeah.
We're seeing, obviously, football is on every weekend now through NBC, and I think that was a real tipping point as we moved from the World Cup. People saw it every 4 years. Now they're seeing it every weekend. We actually get more football in Canada and in the US than we do at home in England, because we can't see live games at 3 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah, totally.
And we can. And we get every single game. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but it just means you have to get up at ungodly hours.
I
know the Champions League final and the FA Cup final were definitely a lot of work.
A 4 in the morning start with a loss is not good.
Yeah, between the Premier League and F1, I'm really in trouble.
Yeah.
My last question, actually, to that point, I'd be wrong for me not to say it because a bunch of people are asking, are you treating the MLS, are you getting like a bunch more MLS stadiums in this year? Because obviously, like, you play the Premier League, it's great. All the stadiums are there now.
Yeah.
What about MLS? You giving it a little bit more treatment there?
We're not really we don't go into details about any licensing changes or things that we're adding. I will say, though, it'd be hard for me not to ignore the fact I think we teased something in our trailer yesterday. I think there was an MLS stadium in there that we haven't announced, but I think most people can guess now which one that is.
Awesome.
But yeah, there's obviously a new MLS stadium, which is great. Beyond that, we'll announce things later on.
Awesome. Nick Cannon, pleasure as ever.
It's great to see you again, Danny. Thank you very much.
Great to talk to you. Looking forward to FIFA 16. Actually, when is it out?
End of September.
Great, just around the corner. Just when the league is kicking off again. Arsenal are going to win the Premier League next year. I can feel it. Thanks very much for watching us on GameSpot.com, on the YouTube E3 Hub, and of course on Hitbox. We'll be back in just a minute.